Hi everyone, it's Miss Terry, and today I'm going to talk about my October picks for students in grades 5 through 6. We'll talk about some fiction, and then we'll talk about some graphic novels, and then a little bit of nonfiction. This first one is called The Monsters of Rookhaven, and this is a story about a monster named Maribel who lives in the mansion of Rookhaven, which actually has this magic surrounding it that keeps the townspeople from knowing that monsters live amongst them. And this was kind of a deal that the monsters had made with the humans a long time ago. In exchange for a regular supply of meat to the monsters would stay at Rookhaven and not roam about the town eating other kinds of meat. And so that's where they have been. Well, now there are two orphans, Tom and Jem, whose parents are gone, and they are on the run from kind of their abusive uncle, and they find this little slip in the magic, and they end up going into Rookhaven and not realizing that they've kind of broken down the magic that surrounds Rookhaven, and now they have unfortunately unleashed something even worse than their uncle onto the townspeople. So that's The Monsters of Rookhaven, a little bit on the creepy side. This next one is called Unicorn Island, and this is about a girl named Sam whose mom has gone off on a trip for work, and she ends up having to go spend the summer with her very grumpy Uncle Mitch. And she meets a new friend there. His name is Tuck, and one day they see their uncle going off into the fog that surrounds the island to another island that's further away. And Sam decides that she wants to know where her uncle is going and what he's doing there. So they kind of sneak out in a boat, her and Tuck, to follow the uncle. And what they discover is an island that is keeping unicorns secret from the rest of the world. Well, they come across a unicorn that is badly hurt, and they have to bring it back to the mainland in order to make it better. And this might prevent the unicorns that are left on the island from being safe. And now Sam and Tuck and her grumpy Uncle Mitch are working hard to make sure that the unicorns remain secret and safe. So that's Unicorn Island. If you like unicorns, but you've kind of grown up over all the pink and purple sparkly stuff, this is a more young adult version of unicorns. Taking Up Space is the story of a girl named Sarah who really loves to play basketball, but she's kind of hit puberty. Her body's starting to change, and she's starting to feel just kind of slow and awkward and just trying to get used to the way her body is changing. And so she decides that she's going to stop eating for a while to see if she can slim down and get a little bit faster. And this is working for a little bit, but eventually she collapses on the basketball court, and she realizes that what she had been doing was not very healthy or safe for her. She doesn't have a lot of help from her mom, who she lives with, because her mom kind of has her own issues with her body and eating. Sometimes she forgets to make dinner or to buy groceries in order to keep food at a minimum at home too. So then Sarah's going to have to figure out how she's going to maintain a healthy lifestyle, do the things that she loves, but also kind of deal with what her mom is dealing with as well. So that's called Taking Up Space. Bubbles is by Abby Cooper, and Abby Cooper always has these great premises for her books. And this is about a girl named Sophie, and she's in middle school, and she's just kind of struggling a little bit when all of a sudden she discovers that she can see these thought bubbles above people's heads, and she seems to be the only one who can see them, but she's able to tell what everybody else is thinking by reading what's going on in the bubbles. And this makes things very interesting and sometimes very difficult for her in navigating the world of middle school. She's also suffering a little bit from having to deal with her mom, who has some depression issues. She's just lost her job. She's just broken up with her long-term boyfriend. And Sophie is trying to figure all of that out while she's trying to figure out friendships and middle school drama and all that good stuff. So that's called Bubbles by Abby Cooper. This next one is from Jake Maddox, and it's called Quarterback Dreams. It's a nice, quick, thin read, and this is about a boy named Darius, and he's actually been the star running back on his 7th grade football team. Unfortunately, they don't have enough players to continue playing the 7th grade season, so they end up having to forfeit, and the 7th graders are asked to come play on the 8th grade team. Well, Darius really has a dream of becoming a quarterback, and when the two 8th grade quarterbacks end up getting injured, he might get his chance. So that's called Quarterback Dreams. 13 Witches is just in time for Halloween. This is about a girl named Rosie Oakes, whose mom seems to have forgotten what it means to have a daughter and has forgotten that she cares for her daughter at all, really. And so Rosie is kind of retreated into stories and just reading and just tries to escape the reality that she's living in. And just as she's about to kind of give that up as well, she comes across a book, which is the Witch Hunter's Guide to the Universe. And it turns out that all the evil in the world is perpetrated by 13 witches that nobody can see. And she's going to use this guide to track down the worst of them, the memory thief, who is actually the reason why her mom kind of forgets about her. And she's going to try to hunt her down and stop her. Again, this is a little bit on the scary side. The Double Life of Danny Day is a story about Danny Day, and he has this strange affinity. He lives every day of his life twice. The first time he can kind of do whatever he wants, even some crazy things, because it's kind of the discard day. At the end of the day, he just gets to start over, and that's the day. The second time he lives that day is the keep. So sometimes if he does something bad the first day, then the second time he lives through it, he tries to change that to make things better for him. And it's worked pretty well for him. He's kind of gotten through most of the pitfalls of this type of life. He seems to be the only one that he knows that's dealing with that. And then he decides his family has just moved to a new town. He decides to take on a taunting, bullying gamer who is really causing a lot of trouble for him and his new friends. And he's going to use his double day life in order to stop him. Very action-packed adventure and kind of a neat twist on the whole time travel idea. Hushabye is another good scare for Halloween, and this is about a girl named Lucy who's in middle school, and she has a younger sister named Antonia, and their mom has to work a lot. They don't have a lot of money, and Lucy kind of gets bullied at school for being poor, and so she spends a lot of time with her sister. And one day they find this creepy doll head near the river, and they decide to take it home. And Lucy realizes that her younger sister is starting to talk to the doll, and now she's starting to think that the doll, which they've named Hushabye, is starting to talk back and is making things happen, and not in a good way. And then the limbs of the doll start reappearing as Hushabye starts to do more and more things. So if you like scary horror stories, a little bit above Goosebumps, you definitely would enjoy this. And if you like creepy doll stories, this is definitely up your alley. Two other horror stories that I have to share. This first one is by K.R. Alexander. It's called Scare Me. And this is the story of a town called Happy Hills that has this spooky manor that's kind of owned by the town. And every Halloween, they invite the kids of the town to come inside and kind of create this haunted house. So they're always trying to come up with new ways to scare people. But what they don't realize is that this year the house has come alive and has decided that it's going to devour the town. So now the kids, not only were they trying to scare people, but now they have to figure out how to keep the townspeople alive. So it's called Scare Me. And then another one by K.R. Alexander. This one is called The Fear Zone. Creepy clown. If you're a big fan of it or like the idea of a scary clown, this is definitely a good book for you. And this is about 5 teens who kind of get this invitation to come to a graveyard, which they kind of think is just a joke. So they go, and then there's like a note saying, here, dig up this grave, which they also think is a joke. But what they don't realize is that they've unleashed a horrible horror that is going to make each of them relive their most deepest, darkest fear. And one of those fears is a creepy clown. This next one, while it's not necessarily a ghost or horror story, it definitely is on a little bit on the scary side. It's called Dead Man's Castle, and it's about a young boy named Eeyore whose dad had witnessed something horrible, a horrible crime, and now they're kind of in the witness protection program, and they're on the run from who their dad calls the Lizard Man. And he always is telling his son, keep the doors locked, keep the curtains closed, don't let anyone in at any time, you have to stay hidden. And they move around a lot, just trying to stay away from this Lizard Man. And Igor is he's not really sure his dad is remembering things correctly. He kind of thinks maybe his dad's a little bit off, and there really isn't anybody because they've never had anything happen, and it's like he just wants to be a regular boy and go to school. Well, eventually his dad relents and says, all right, I'll let you go to school, but please be very careful. And then that's when Igor does see the Lizard Man. So it's called Dead Man's Castle. The first graphic novel is called Cees Journal, and this is about a girl named Cece who's really interested in becoming a writer, and she takes notes about everything she sees in a diary, in a journal that she keeps, and she really feels that the best stories are about what people are trying to stay hidden, so she's always kind of skulking around trying to get down people's secrets, and she ends up seeing an older man going into the woods with paint cans and paint, and she decides that she wants to know what the secret is behind what he's doing in there and why he always seems to come out of the woods very sad. So she decides one day to follow him into the woods. So this is the first in a series about Cece and her writing adventures. Clash is a story about a girl named Olive who has a new girl at school named Natasha that really seems cool, and she really wants to be her friend, and she's trying to get to know her, but it seems like all Natasha's really interested in doing is hanging out with Olive's friends, and Olive's friends seem to really like hanging out with Natasha, and Olive is starting to worry that they're going to start to like her more than Olive herself. If you like stories like Smile and drama, you definitely will enjoy Clash. The Mystery of the Meanest Teacher is a story about Johnny Constantine, who is a magician, but he has a tendency to get himself into a lot of trouble. And actually, he's just been kicked out of a school in London after getting some spirits and ghosts very angry in London. So now he's back in Salem, Massachusetts at a new school where he makes a new friend. You can see her on the cover. And they have discovered that one of their teachers, Miss Kayla, might be a witch, or in fact, maybe something even worse. And they're going to try to solve the mystery. Bad Sister is a story of a girl named Charisse who really, she's very energetic, she's very helpful, she's the model pet owner, but she's really a bad sister, and she's not very nice to her younger brother Daniel. You can see her crossing her fingers, so she makes promises that she doesn't keep, she plays games that really aren't very nice to him, and then one day she goes a little bit too far and he ends up breaking one of his teeth, and she has to really step up and say, okay, is it really an accident if I could have prevented it? And she might have to come clean to both her brother and herself about the fact that she really is a bad sister, and maybe she can improve it. Miles Morales, Shockwaves, is a new Spider-Man comic. Miles Morales is the boy that played Spider-Man in, I can't remember what the movie was, where it has the alternate universes, but nevertheless, so he's working hard as Spider-Man when a earthquake hits his mom's hometown in Puerto Rico, and he decides that he's going to help set up a fundraiser in order to raise money for the earthquake victims. And he discovers that when one of the students that he's trying to help, his father goes missing, he realized that there might be an evil corporation that is doing some things that they shouldn't be, and then Spider-Man is on the case. So that's Miles Morales, Shockwaves. This next one is called Amelia Earhart, and this is about a girl named Amelia who really wants to be a pilot, but her dad has forbidden her from even learning how to do it. Well, she decides she's going to do it anyway and ends up stealing her dad's prize aircraft and takes off, but she ends up going off course and crashing into the juniper forest where she gets lost, and she ends up meeting these two boys. Their names are Roster and Finley, and they are going to help her get out of the jungle and hopefully repair the aircraft and get it back to their father. Now this is of the steampunk genre, so airplanes don't look exactly like airplanes. They're a little bit modern of ships, and a modern mix of ships and airplanes together. So that's called Amelia Earhart. Beautiful illustrations. Black Sand Beach is a bit on the spooky side, and it's about a boy named Dash who goes to the beach with his friend named Lily, and weird things are happening at the beach. It starts out when a zombie ram runs into their house, and it ends with these ghosts that seem to be calling Dash from the lighthouse on the beach, and he and his friends decide to investigate. You can kind of see the hands and things sticking up out of the ghostly water on the beach. And then the last graphic novel today is Super Mario Manga Mania. And if you are a huge Super Mario fan and you like the manga style where it's read from back to front, you will enjoy this graphic novel. All right, let's talk a little bit about some nonfiction. This first one is called Big Apple Diaries. It's about a girl named Alyssa, and she is in 7th grade, and she kind of splits her time between her parents who are divorced, and she is Puerto Rican, and she's just starting middle school, and she lives in the big city, and she's got a new crush, but then a tragedy strikes close to home, and this kind of sends her reeling. And this is actually a true story, and this is her diary of the events that happened. So it's called Big Apple Diaries. This next one is another comic. It's called History of the World in Comics. So if you've ever been interested in how our Earth was formed and all the things in it, you will enjoy the history of the world. This next one is called Planet Ocean. and it is why we all need a healthy ocean. And it looks at just how really important the ecosystem of the ocean is to all of us, and the fact that they always say that there's 5 major oceans in the world, and the fact is it's all one ocean, it's all connected, and that's why we all need to be worried about where all of our water is going and where all of our garbage is going. And it also talks a little bit about what people are doing right now to try to protect our ocean, and what maybe you can do at home to do that as well. And as always, it has beautiful photographs. This next one is called Unconventional Vehicles, and it has a collection of 45 of the strangest cars, trains, planes, submersibles, dirigibles, and rockets ever. Some of these actually were made, some of these were not, and only stuck to the drawing board. One of the ones that I thought was very interesting in here was the Helios solar aircraft. So it was an airplane that was made up entirely of solar panels along the roof and flew just on solar power alone. So this is, if you're really interested in mechanical engineering or the idea of vehicles that are a little bit different, there's a whole section in here on different ways that people have tried to make jetpacks. You will enjoy unconventional vehicles. This next one is called Action Presidents, and this one in particular is about Abraham Lincoln. And you know, we all know a little bit about Abraham Lincoln, but there's a lot more to him. In fact, he was the one who first pardoned the first Thanksgiving turkey. He once snuck into the White House before he was president, and he also ended up growing this beard because a little girl thought he was very ugly, and she thought the beard made him less ugly. So this is full of a lot of information about behind the scenes of what Abraham Lincoln was like and the things that he did while he was president and beforehand. This next one is called Escape at 10,000 Feet, and it is the story of D.B. Cooper, who in 1971 actually absconded from a Northwest Airlines flight, mid-flight, with over $200,000, which at the time was a lot, and he completely disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to him or what happened to the money. So if you kind of like true crime stories, if you like to hear about heists, you will enjoy Escape at 10,000 Feet, because he did in fact jump out of the airplane before it landed. And then the last nonfiction I have today is called Near-Death Experiences and Reincarnation. And these are true accounts that people have said have happened to them when they've almost died, or if they feel that they have been brought to life to live another life. Definitely on the spooky side. Hopefully you'll find a book to enjoy. Thank you.